From Q13 News, this is breaking news.
Mourning the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She died at the age of 87 of metastatic pancreatic cancer as the flag is lowered outside the U.S. Supreme Court.
She was the second woman to serve on the nation's highest court, and tonight her loss is being felt across the country and here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Tompkins.
And I'm Matt Lorch. Her death less than 7 weeks before Election Day is already igniting a political fight over the future of the court.
Just days before her death, Ginsburg made her final wishes known to her granddaughter, saying, quote, "My most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed."
With that said, tonight the leader of the Republican-controlled Senate made it clear they are ready to fill the vacancy before the presidential election. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying President Trump's nominee will receive a vote on the floor of the United States Senate. A much different message from the Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, who said on Twitter the American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. It sets up another showdown. The passing of Ginsburg leaves 3 liberal justices on the court and 5 conservatives. So with 46 days to go until the election, what is going to happen with this critical seat? Tonight we heard from a local law professor and Supreme Court expert.
I think it's better than 50-50 that President Trump gets a nominee confirmed for the seat. Far from certain. I think there's going to be an extraordinary battle. And then, you know, if he does and he loses the presidential election, we're immediately going to go into a sharp discussion of what the Democratic response is going to be.
Well, for liberals around the country, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was more than a justice. She developed rock star status along with the nickname Notorious RBG. Tonight, Shannon Bream has more on her life and legacy.
I, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, do solemnly swear.
She might have seemed small in stature, but as the second woman to be nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a trailblazer for women's rights and a champion for civil liberties. Ginsburg was born Ruth Joan Bader on March 15, 1933, in a working-class neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, the daughter of Nathan and Celia Bader. Ginsburg's mother died when she was just 17, the day before she graduated from high school.
It was one of the most trying times in my life, but I knew that she wanted me to study hard and get good grades and succeed in life, so that's what I did.
She finished first in her class at Cornell University, where she met and married Martin Ginsburg, an aspiring lawyer, and, quote, "the first boy I dated who cared that I had a brain." Like her husband, Ginsburg pursued a law degree, enrolling at Harvard after the birth of daughter Jane, then at Columbia Law School, where she graduated at the top of her class. She stayed in the world of academia, and while a professor at Rutgers University, she gave birth to a son, James. But she soon left Rutgers for Columbia University to become that school's first female tenured law professor. She described the 1970s as a fruitful time for women's rights.
I was fantastically lucky to be born when I was and to be in the right place to help advance this movement for women's equality.
She went on to create the American Civil Liberties Union's Women's Rights Project, and as general counsel for the ACLU, Ginsburg began appearing before the Supreme Court. She argued 6 cases for women's rights before President Jimmy Carter nominated her to serve on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Then, in 1993, President Bill Clinton nominated her to the nation's highest court. She was only the second woman to serve on the Supreme Court and the first Jewish woman.
What a long way we have come in this nation.
After a series of hearings, the Senate confirmed Ginsburg to the post by a vote of 96-3.
In Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I believe the nation is getting a justice who will be a guardian of liberty for all Americans and an ensurer of equal justice under law.
On the bench, Ginsburg was known to lean left of center, but favored caution and restraint in her decisions. While she never claimed to have a favorite opinion.
My favorite opinion, well, it's a little bit like asking me which of my 4 grandchildren.
Ginsburg said the ruling in the Virginia Military Institute case, which prohibited the state from operating an all-male institution with taxpayer dollars, gave her tremendous satisfaction.
That was a very satisfying opinion for me to write.
And her dissent in Ledbetter v. Goodyear Tire was a precursor for the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which Congress passed into law in 2009 to address a perceived pay gap between men and women. But she suffered losses too. In an interview with New Republic, she said if she could overrule one decision, it would be the 2010 Citizens United ruling that allowed corporations and unions to financially support candidates running for office. Ginsburg said, quote, "I think the notion that we have all the democracy that money can buy strays so far from what our democracy is supposed to be. So that's number one on my list." In her personal life, Ginsburg battled 4 separate cancer diagnoses. In 1999, it was colon cancer. A decade later, pancreatic cancer. In 2018, she underwent lung cancer surgery. And in 2020, she announced she was undergoing chemotherapy for liver cancer.
My colleagues so rallied around me and made it possible for me to go on and not miss a day in court.
Ginsburg's legacy can be felt not only across this country, but here locally. We talked to Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson, who says Justice Ginsburg's influence on the Supreme Court has been critical to this state.
And it's worth pointing out, in cases we've had against this administration, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has cast key and decisive votes on issues like making sure Dreamers maintained their legal protections here in the United States, making sure we have a census that is fair and counts everybody in our country, consistent with the Constitution. Again, we won that case 5-4. So just in our own cases we've had here in the state of Washington, to make sure the administration follows the rule of law, look, without Ruth Bader Ginsburg being on that court, the outcome might have been very, very different on those significant cases.
Ferguson went on to say Ginsburg was an icon and a trailblazer, especially when it came to gender equality, and no one in our lifetime had a more significant role in fighting gender discrimination than RBG. And
Ginsburg's advocacy for women actually inspired 2 local attorneys to get into law. One of them even worked with Justice Ginsburg personally.
Q13's Olivia Lavoie shows us how she helped shape their careers.
Perhaps Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's greatest legacy is the path she paved for women, both in the legal field and not.
I am deeply saddened that it happened at this particular moment. And I'm surprised in the sense that I really had hoped that she could hold on just a couple months more, because I know that that's part of the legacy that I feel like she would have wanted for herself, was to have been able to wait it out.
Attorney Anastasia Blakely says despite the saddening timing of her death, she's focusing on RBG's incredible accomplishments and how they inspire her own career.
Taking the risks she did to fight the cases that she fought, and to do a lot of that on her own, without the support of the greater legal community, just the difficulty that she must have gone through, it really made me think, well, if she can do that, I can do this.
And she did. Now getting her start in the legal field, RBG continues to be a crucial role model.
And I work for a firm named Warrior Woman Law, and we have a very large portrait of RBG in our office that my boss has hung to remind us that we're here on her shoulders.
Her advocacy on behalf of women, not only women attorneys, but women in all professions, in all educational settings, is one of the important things that allowed me to have the career that I have. And then, personally, she was an excellent, rigorous, demanding boss, and that was an incredible experience as well. So,
before Elizabeth Porter was the Dean of Academic Administration at UW's Law School, she was a law clerk for RBG. Tonight's news hits her on multiple levels.
I'm experiencing it as a public person, just like all of you, as a citizen, like all of you, and it's pretty bleak. On the other hand, I'm also experiencing it on a personal level, since I was a law clerk for Justice Ginsburg. And strangely, on that level, I have a different view. I think Justice Ginsburg lived an amazing, gorgeous, joyous life. And I hope to be able to live a life half as good as the one that she lived.
Olivia Lavoie, Q13 News.
Well, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan, who served as a U.S. attorney, is responding to the death of Ginsburg, tweeting, quote, "Devastating. A pioneer who inspired so many, particularly young girls. We must extend her legacy by continuing to fight for true equity, for upholding the Constitution, and for a country that lives up to its promise. Thank you, RBG." And Washington Senator Patty Murray tweeted from the steps of the Supreme Court in our nation's capital night, standing here saying to proudly represent Washington State in respect for all that RBG gave to us and our country. We'll keep up the fight for justice in her honor.
Just a heads up, you're going to be hearing the name Merrick Garland a lot in the coming days. Garland was President Obama's pick to fill the vacancy created by the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. But the Republicans who controlled the Senate refused to vote on Garland back in 2016, claiming it was too close to the presidential election. That all happened 11 months before President Trump was sworn into office. President Trump then filled the vacancy with conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch.
We'll continue to follow all the developments locally and on Capitol Hill following the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You can also follow the latest on our Q13 News app and get breaking news push notifications. It's free to download in the App Store. Well, the collapse of Pier 58 is having a ripple effect along Seattle's waterfront. Coming up, the new closure announced by the city and how it will impact businesses in the area.
And the rain providing much needed relief from the wildfire smoke. Meteorologist Tim Joyce gives us a look at how it is helping our air quality and how long the wet weather will actually be sticking around this weekend when we come back.